Hello, good evening, and welcome to Business Focus, your weekly business and economic analysis program live here on TV3. My name is Pa Kwesi Asare. Well, tonight, the Chamber of Telecommunications says it is open to further discussions with government over the imposition of taxes on the operations of its members. We know that subsequently, telecom companies have increased the tariffs on their services to the displeasure of consumers. We'll speak to the Chief Executive Officer of the Telecoms Chamber, Ken Ashigbe, on this latest developing story. Also, this morning we woke up to news about an increase in the price of petroleum products at the pumps, despite a decline in the world market price of crude oil. We'll find out what has gone into the latest increase in the price of petroleum products. There's also some good news for the Tema Oil Refinery. We understand that TOR has begun operations fully. We'll find out what the likely implications are moving forward. We also have some latest updates on the commodities market. We'll find out what the price of gold, cocoa and oil are. And also, Winslow will join us with this analysis on the exchange rate. My name is Pa Kwesi Asare. We'll be back shortly. All right, so you're welcome back to Business Focus, your weekly business and economic analysis programs. Well, later on, we'll be speaking to the Chief Executive Officer of the Telecoms Chamber, Mr. Ken Ashigbe, to give us some bit of details to this developing story But first of all, we woke up this morning to news about an increase in the price of petroleum products at the pumps. Now, prices of diesel and petrol have gone up at the pumps by about 2.74%. This as a result of a rise in the average Brent crude price by 5.7%, with a corresponding increment in the price of gasoline and gas oil on the international market. Now, prices of crude declining on the world market, as you may be aware, whilst prices of finished products are going up. That's the sharp contrast. Now, how does this scenario play out in determining the prices at the local pumps? Because one would have expected prices to come down. My guest in the studio tonight is Mikdad Mohammed. He's with the Institute of Energy Security. Mikdad, thank you very much for your time and good to have you in the studio. So, I'm sure you heard the background to this story. We know the prices of crude oil on the world market are declining, and we're told that price of finished products are going up, and that's what has occasioned today's increase. What do you make of government's explanation to this latest story?
Well, for us at IES, government's explanation is something we have heard over and over again. Every time we have made projections, government has come out with an explanation. Of course, there will always be an explanation, but we look at the figures as they are, the indices from the international market, the performance of the local currency against the trading currency. Then we look at stock level in the country as at the time the prices changed, how it could sustain the window until new stock is brought in. That is what we assessed. And when you look at IES statement on October 14th, when we projected a marginal increment, we based our projection on the price of gas oil, for example, which in winter has gone up above 6%, while gasoline had just marginal increment of below 1%, around 0.94%. And for the window, the cedi had been relatively stable against the dollar for the period. And then also when you consider the fact that going forward, the bulk distributing companies and then the Bank of Ghana have come up with an arrangement of forex shock absorbing for the pricing regime, which is the oil forex market they are bringing, which would ensure that the shocks of depreciating currency will not affect the cost of fuel going forward. But that is something we can handle. But there are some factors that government has no control over, such as the movement of prices on the international market, for example. And yes, you did mention that Brent crude is coming down since the IMF review. We've seen Brent crude tumble from around $86 per barrel now around $80 per barrel, which is a cut of about $6. But we have seen finished products prices go up the reverse. What could account for this is that, when Brent crude prices are coming down, it is not immediate that already refineries have bought stock based on the old prices and they are refining. When they are done and let's say the crude oil is in the furnace burning and the news come in that there's a change in price, you don't expect them to sell the products they have refined, which they bought at $86 per barrel at the old price. That is just the supply chain economics of it.
So this may not necessarily reflect in this pricing window. It's like
it may not reflect this pricing window, but every single day in this industry means a lot. A Trump tweet can push something, and something will knock another thing, and then the dynamics will change. But as at the time that the window was ending, Brent crude was coming down. There are a lot of geopolitical factors that can have an
America
influence.
Is pushing up production of its shale
on Iran by November.
Sanctions on Iran as well.
Exactly. By November, the sanction is coming in fully, and the byproduct of that is people have already anticipated it happening. When Trump started tweeting about the sanctions he was bringing, the market had reacted in small ways that has come together to prepare generally for the sanctions. India, for example, who rely on Iran for much of their crude import, have made arrangement with Russia to go in there. So some of the shocks that we'll expect the market to react to, there are preparations to show off those things. So largely what IES can say is that it is early days yet
so you're not
to
convinced
announce
by government's explanation?
Well, no, government explanation, like I told you, government will always have an explanation. IES cannot explain to someone who had expectations.
We're operating a deregulated market. Essentially means that prices are determined by what happens on the world market.
Yes, largely that is what pertains. But government is in the driving seat of policy. Government is collecting taxes and margins and levies from the price build-up. That is a fact that we know. But not to double in too much the government says. We want to approach the entire discussion from the point of policy. We have called for going forward. One of the things government can do is to consider scrapping the special petroleum tax, which we commended government in the past for reviewing it from 17.5 to 15 to 13 and now to 46 peso specific tax. What we have said is that yes, this is commendable, but that entire tax is a nuisance tax, because as at the time, November 2014, when government brought in that tax, it was to make up for a revenue shortfall, because we had made benchmark crude price projections in our budgets and it didn't happen. But today, the 2018 budget has a benchmark crude price of $58 per barrel. We are now hitting $80 per barrel. There is a windfall. There is no mathematical algorithm that will explain the fact that government will lose its entire revenue when it lets go of the special petroleum tax. And what government can do for people when it lets go of the special petroleum tax is that government is cushioning consumers directly and putting money back into the pocket of the average Ghanaian. Let's take, for example, someone who buys 5 cedis, 5 gallons of let's say petrol a day. When government takes the special petroleum tax of the 46 pesos in the price build-up, what government has done is to put about 40 cedis directly in the pocket of this Ghanaian in one way or the other. And it is not because, yes, there's a question of government needing revenue, but the justification is that if you are making a benchmark crude price of $58 per barrel and you are getting about $80 per barrel, that is about you are getting almost half of what
Mikdad,
you have projected,
and you can for me.
be willing to pass on the cost.
With the Institute of Energy Security. You're watching Business Focus, your weekly business and economic analysis program, live here on TV3. My name is Pa Kwesi Asare. I'm going to go on the phone lines now, because one of our top stories this hour is about the Telecoms Chamber. The Chamber of Telecommunications says it is open to further discussions with government over the imposition of taxes on the operations of its members. We know that subsequently telecom service tariffs had gone up as a result of this, to the displeasure of a lot of consumers. I've been joined on the phone lines now by the Chief Executive Officer of the Telecoms Chamber, Ken Ashigbe. Mr. Kenneth Ashigbe, thank you very much for your time and good to have you on the program. I'm just wondering how a change in the tax regime would influence your prices.
Pakwesi, have you asked the people who manage your business what will happen to TV3 when it comes to how you handle your taxes as far as VAT is concerned? Definitely, what is the tax the change in tax regime? What it is that in the past, TV3, when you charge VAT 17.5%, when you file your returns at the end of the month, what you do is that you claim your input VAT on all the 17.5%. What has now happened, been occasioned by the change in the laws, is the fact that now you can only claim 12.5%. So invariably, what is the other two levies have now become direct levies, whose incident is on the customer. So you cannot claim that back. So what would happen is that, and if you look at the practice notes that was issued by GRA, that tax is incident on the consumer. So you would have to, there's a 5% increase in your cost. So now what would have to happen, you need to pass that levy on to your consumers. It does not mean that your tariffs would increase by 5%. It depends on how the input and output taxes work. But this tax is definitely a consumer tax, and it has to be incident on consumers. The interesting thing is that some industries have already passed this cost on. I'm sure maybe you might also have done that, but without coming back and telling your consumers, by, adjusting the discounts and things that you give. For us as an industry, we believe in the fact that we need to be accountable, we need to be transparent. So that is why we first informed, our regulators, the NCA, the Ministry of Communication, Ministry of Finance, about the fact that because of these changes that has happened, there's going to be a modification in the tariffs. And that is passing on just the that incidence of that tax onto the consumers. But the details of that, because it's going to, when it comes to the pricing, it would depend on each telco. That would be handled by the telcos themselves. So all our communication sought to do, and if you read our statement, was the fact that this tax arrangement that has changed who the incidence of the tax was on. It's not a tax on the telcos, but it's a tax on consumers like me and you. So that's basically the explanation.
Mr. Ashigbe, assuming without admitting that your decision is justifiable, have you considered the timing of this latest decision at a time when consumers are having to pay a lot more for services? We've just seen an increase in petroleum products at the pumps.
Oh, so you see, when as journalists, me and you, when we're talking, it's based on facts. This law took effect on the 1st of August. So it is not for the telcos to decide. We don't determine the timing. This is a law that took effect on the 1st of August. I don't know whether you know that the beverage companies have already passed this on. You know, some of the FMGCs have passed it on. So, yes, you would say that maybe we are being a bit more considerate. And, you know, because the government will be expecting that 5% would be accounted for from the 1st of August. So definitely, yes, we are considerate. But we also should bear in mind, all of us, that it's the taxes that develop our country. And so once the government imposes taxes, you know, and then it goes through Parliament and our representatives, you know, pass the amendment to the law, and then the president assents to it. Definitely, all of us as law-abiding corporate citizens need to how do you call it, abide by it.
As policymakers, and particularly for you who represents the Chamber of Telecom Companies, do you consider an engagement with your customers as crucial in this matter?
But I just said to you, you know, who is engaging customers now? Who has informed customers of the decision? I'm just saying to you that, you know, other industries have changed it. And I put it to you, I'm pretty sure that for you, even, you know, broadcasters, you might have passed it on. You know, I am an advertiser. You know, we have engaged. We engaged right at the top, the policymakers, and we put a statement out. And that statement was for our consumers. That's engagement.
You also said that you were open to further discussions with government over the imposition of taxes on the operations of your members. How soon do you intend to hold this discussion?
Oh, you see, one of the channels that the Ministry of Finance and GRA has opened, and it's not only to the telecom chamber, it's the telecom industry, it's to all of us. Tomorrow there'll be a tax dialogue where, you know, various taxpayers, you know, tax consultants and other institutions would engage the Ministry of Finance. It's something that is done on a regular basis, you know, to be able to improve the relationships between the tax administrators and people who pay taxes. So tomorrow the tax dialogue would go on, and I'm sure beyond the telecoms industry, other organizations will be there, and we would definitely use opportunities like this to advance what we think that as an industry we can do to help government in revenue generation. What we're seeing that if government does, you know, would help the industry grow, so that, you know, the more the industry grows, and there's a lot more production, there's a lot more contributions to tax revenue, so that the whole mantra of Ghana Beyond Aid would happen. And one of the things that as an industry we would want to support is government's call to push all people to government payments through digital means, so that from next year, we've heard it said several times, the Vice President has also mentioned it, that from next year, all P2G payments will be through digital means. We believe that if that happens, it would improve the efficiency of tax collection, the cost of collecting taxes would reduce, the leakages that happen, you know, people who pilfer some of these things will go away. Transparency would improve. The Minister of Finance would see immediately all collections that are made. We believe that it will lead to a lot more people paying taxes, a lot more revenues coming, to the extent that we believe that if even that happens and it's effective, and that has been seen in other jurisdictions, government could even reduce the incidence of the tax, the rate of taxes, and still be able to get a lot more and get a lot more of us all contributing a little bit and getting more taxes. And we believe that will be a better way of generating taxes than, some of the ways that have happened in the past, including taxation of mobile money, which, if happens, would rather kill the financial inclusion that we have seen as a country.
I was hoping this was going to be my final question, but kindly grant me permission to ask this final question. Now, as you hope to increase telecom service tariffs, do customers have the rights to demand better quality service from the telecom companies?
You see, I think we need to situate, we're not increasing telecom tariffs. So the amount that would go to telecommunication companies will not go up. What is happening is that because of the re-engineering of the VAT, GET Fund, and HIL, those two levies are incidents on customers. And as a telecommunication industry, which is also mandated by law to collect this on the behalf of government, we will collect that and give that to government. Our tariffs will not increase. Okay. So that what it just means is that customers would have to pay more. So that is a completely separate conversation from quality of service conversation. Right. Quality of service conversations need to be had. Even today, at the launch of the set at the NCA Director General talked about the fact that one of the issues that are contributing to poor quality of service is fiber cuts. A lot of people, builders, road builders, all cutting fiber, which also contributes to it. So we need to have that conversation on quality of service. Right. And members are doing a lot to make sure that we can improve on quality of service. And on the 6th of November, we would have an engagement. I'm sure TV3 would also invite you to come cover it, so that all of us can sit together, because quality of service, apart from the telecom industries themselves contributing and improving networks, there are other stakeholders who also contribute to it. The fiber cuts we get, agitations by communities that prevent areas where you want to inject expansion of networks are all part of it. Vandalization of cell sites, stealing of fuel, stealing of batteries, all of those account to it. And we believe that if we all came together and understood the nuances of it, we'll all be able to improve on telecommunication that has become a utility and a critical national infrastructure. Right.
Mr. Ken Ashigbe, thank you very much for your time and for joining us on Business Focus. Kenneth Ashigbe is the Chief Executive Officer of the Telecoms Chamber. So return to the studio, and I'll continue my conversation with Migdad Mohammed, who's with the Institute of Energy Security. Migdad, let me just tie it in with the Tema Oil Refinery. Some good news for Tor, because we're told they've taken delivery of 1 million barrels of crude oil to refine. Our checks have revealed the consignment was secured from British Petroleum, that's BP, who are their first suppliers. Now, the vessel British Heritage, carrying the consignment, has docked at the anchorage of the Tema port. Sources say the product will last for a month, after which the contracts with BP will be extended. So, the refinery has taken delivery of 940,000 barrels of crude oil. This was on Friday. And then crude oil is going to start in terms of refining. What does this mean for Tor?
Well, for us at IES, it is good news. We have continuously trumpeted the fact that there was the need for government to come clear on what it wants to do with Tor, whether it wanted to make it a tank farm or it wanted to outsource the service to a third-party private investor and all that. So for us, it came as good news. We are happy that government has voted confidence into Tor. It will be up to the management of Tor to justify the confidence, because the problem of Tor has been their inability to raise letters of credit, because no one was willing to deal with them on open credit basis. So this is a million barrel of crude procured on the guarantee of the government of Ghana. And for the government of Ghana to guarantee 1 million barrel of crude for you, it will mean that you convinced them. We commend the management of Tor and the board for that. But we are watching proceedings. It is not simply running a refinery for the sake of national pride. We have to run a refinery which is contributing to fuel security in the country. We have to run a...
It's good to talk about fuel security. Now, my wonder is whether this would in any way impact on fuel supply on the local markets.
Well, for now, unfortunately, no. but it will be it will provide some form of support. Unfortunately, no, because currently our national consumption per day is about 10,500 metric tons, and Tor is not running at full capacity. It's a 45,000 barrel refinery, which is now running at 28,000 because of a furnace which is down. Now, the 28,000 barrel translates into about 2,000 metric tons. So if you are consuming about 10,500 metric tons a day, and a refinery is coming on steam to give you just 2,000, that is less than 20% of the national consumption per day. So it will provide a form of support. Going forward, we are hopeful that the right investment will be made to make them run at optimum capacity and efficiently. Efficiently, because if you look at Jamnagar refinery, the largest refinery in the world in India, it is a 1.2 million barrel a day refinery run by 2,000 people. 2,000 people. But Tor, a 48,000 or 45,000 barrel refinery run by almost 1,000 people. It should tell you the economies of scale we are operating in. And largely across the world, refineries which are running below 70,000 barrels per day would have a difficulty of meeting their economies of scale. But it is a very good thing that Tor is back. Tor is back because so far we have had instances where staff who were not working as a result of lack of feedstock, traveling out, being poached by refineries in Kuwait and in the Arab world to give away the investment we have made in their training and experience, just like that, because we don't have a functioning refinery. So it is good news.
IES has they're currently lifting from Nigeria.
Yes.
What happens to the country's share of crude from its oil fields?
Well, when we discuss petroleum, we have to. It is an international market. It's competitive, and Bonny Light they are bringing in is very sweet light crude, which Tor has worked with in the past with Kwaibo. So I think that some of these things informed why they went for Bonny Light in Nigeria. Bonny Light is extraordinary. It can't be compared to our crude in 10 or Jubilee. Even though we know Tor has refined 10 crude in the past, where we got a lot of ATK, but with the Bonny Light, you are going to get a lot of gasoline from it. And IES has laid its hands on the purchase agreement. We'll be looking at the premiums, for example, whether we bought it competitively and all that. It is not just enough to celebrate the running of the refinery. It is good. It is a plus that the right decisions have been made for the future of the refinery. But we have to also police the process and make sure that Ghanaians have a value for money, and that the entire process is one that benefits us in whatever way. Going forward, there's the need. No matter how much we invest in Tor, if we don't make a strong commitment to cut off the politics in the system, we will continue to have a refinery of 48,000 run by 1,000 people, when every month you pay a staff wage of about $1 million. That is unsustainable. You can't run that way. So going forward, we have to look at the influence of politicians in the system who have made the Tor state agency a rent-seeking ground where you bring in incompetent hands. If it were your private company, people you will not employ, you keep employing them just to bloat the wage bill. You end up unable to pay salary and you go for overdraft month after month. So yes, we have to celebrate the good news that Tor is back.
Again, we need an effective
but we
business
need
model.
effective business models to run. Tor must first, in going for a business model, Tor must look at what it has. Tor has a storage capacity of 1 million metric ton, and because of lack of maintenance, about 30% of it is redundant. Tor has a furnace running, it has a CDU running, it has a problem with RFCC, it has a pipeline infrastructure, which is one of the most effective in this country. In fact, all the private guys are using Tor facilities. So Tor has this. What Tor lacks is that its books are bad. So you have a private investor who can come in and partner Tor, so they can secure funding, and possibly when Tor is able to stand on its feet, we can even invite Ghanaians who are interested in buying shares into it. And
Thank you very much. Megdad Mohammed is with the Institute of Energy Security, helping us to analyze happenings within the Tema Oil Refinery, and also with regards to the latest increase in the price of petroleum products at the various pumps. You're still watching Business Focus, your weekly business and economic analysis program. We'll take a short break. When we return, we'll bring you the Mover segment. Also, stand by for Winslow Sakifio. He's the head of capital market at First Bank Financial Services. You join us with the very latest on the commodities market. We'll find out what the price of gold, cocoa, and oil are.
It's even more exciting when you have glasses that's made in Ghana, made from materials sourced from Ghana, creating direct and indirect employment for Ghanaians. And that is the focus here on the Movers segment. I'm going to go on to Movers for today. They're brothers. They're going to introduce themselves and tell us what they've been doing over the period, and why we should even be excited to stay and listen to them.
Hi, my name is Nana Boatinose, and I'm the CEO of Botan Eyeglasses.
Nana Kujose, and I'm the creative director in charge of marketing.
Just a brief about Botan Glasses for those who are hearing it for the first time.
Yeah, so we make designer frames made from reclaimed wood sourced primarily in Ghana. We focus on prescription eyewear. All our frames are designed to be lightweight. One of the issues that people who wear plastic and metal frames have is it reacts to the skin and gives them headaches too. With our wood frames, you don't have that issue because it's natural material, and when you sweat, it just absorbs the sweat, and you can wear them for as many hours as you need to.
Wood is durable, but it's also beautiful. It's temperamental, but at the same time lasts a long time. For us, nature is a big source of inspiration when it comes to what we do, and so wood was a perfect element to use and to experiment with, and I think that's why we like wood so much.
So now we're in the workshop, as you can see right here. All of this is made of indigenous Ghanaian products, and they're going to run us through how they arrived at this final product, or these final products you see right here. They're not only into the glasses that you see, we have cufflinks as well.
It's been a great journey. It started really when I got accepted to an internship program in my school in Canada at Carleton University. So I had some mentors that groomed the foundation with the help of my brother and my sister, and then even before that, I had an environmental science background, and that certainly helped a lot in terms of the importance of using sustainable materials for everything, right? So I've been into doing showcase events and promoting other eco-friendly lifestyle brands, and then finally when I came to Ghana, I realized that the landscapes over here were very inspirational. Like we're from Kwewu in the eastern region, and also that there's a lot of potential for the raw materials being used here to be utilized for something even greater. So it was really a combination of the passion for fashion, but also nature combined to make one product. I mean, like any other business starting out, you're gonna have ups and downs. I think one thing that was consistent with us is we learned how to adapt to our environment. Like I told you earlier, we started in sunglasses and then went into eyeglasses and then prescription eyewear, and that was because we realized where the market was and where the need was, and why it was important for people to have comfortable frames on their faces, but also patronizing an African product and an African brand.
I think the market has been quite favorable, because even on just thinking about it as an idea, people are happy that we're using our identity and our origins as the reason why we're starting a business. I think, again, it's one of those things where as a business you have to prove yourself to the people, whether you're in Ghana or elsewhere. People want to see why this is of value, and we've been trying to just keep improving upon that, giving them better products, and also to market it to them in such a fashion that they feel proud of what we're doing, whether they buy the products or not. And over time, we hope to use what we do as a platform to educate, because our eyes are, it's a treasure to be able to see, right? And sometimes we forget that by how we treat them, and with the type of sun that we have and the elements in the air, it's important that you protect these things. So we hope to be a part of that, and that's the trajectory we're trying to be in. Funding is always a problem. Even if you have the money, funding is still an issue, because you always need more money to start projects. It's also, you have to become a bit wise about how you use the resources that you've either bootstrapped and gotten yourself or been given by friends, family, or an investor. And I think for us, we've learned a lot about making a lot out of a little, and not letting perceived challenges to be the reason why we stop doing what we do. If I had something to tell the youth, I would tell them, I'll use the words of a friend of mine, you only lose when you stop. So if you feel like you're not there yet, just keep going. You will get there. And just be persistent.
I would definitely say make mistakes, make them fast. Because if you don't make mistakes, you get to a point in your life where you don't know how to deal with adversity. And being an entrepreneur is all about how do you respond to adversity that comes your way. So I would encourage everybody, if you want to start a business, do it now. And regardless of how it ends up, you learn something from it. It will take you a step closer to where you want to be. Because you never know what's going to happen when you start a business, what you learn, and how you can use that to pivot to something else.
Those were our movers for today. I call them the Boateng brothers and the Boateng glasses. I think on Facebook or any other social media platform they can find you on.
It's just Boateng, B-O-H-T. Yeah, B-O-H-T-E-N.
B-O-H-T-E-N. Just type it everywhere. And they've been with us here on the Mover segment. My name is Alfredo Kanse. We're back in studio.
All right, thank you very much, Alfredo Kanse, for the Mover segment. And you had the Boateng brothers, Nana Boateng Osei Jr. and Senior, founder and chief executive officer of Boateng, a spectacles manufacturer who uses wood from Ghana. Next, we've got the very latest in the commodities market. We'll find out what the price of gold, cocoa and oil is, and also we'll do some analysis on the exchange rate. Winsley Sakifio will join us for the very latest on that. But first, let's have our Entrepreneurs Corner. You're welcome back to Business Focus, your weekly business and economic analysis program. I've been joined in the studio by Winslow Sakifio. He's head of capital market for First Bank Financial Services. Winslow, good to have you in studio. Let's start off with the stocks. And how did it end last week? We're told that there's still some non-performing in terms of how MTN is, faring.
Unfortunately, MTN released their third quarter results last week. It was very good, but it looks like investors are not so happy. So the stock went down by 1%, even though they have declared that dividend will be paid this year, but it still didn't support the stock price.
How are the financial stocks faring at this time when we're having lots of instability within the market?
Unfortunately, it's hitting the financial stocks very hard. I mean, if you're an investor and there's a lot of uncertainty in the banking space, you would want to take out your money from banking stocks. So that's what we are seeing currently, and it will continue till, I think, the end of this year.
Quickly, let's talk about the commodities markets. Gold, cocoa, oil?
The oil, fortunately, the price has stabilized at 80, but it might go up because we still have some issues with the supply. Currently, U.S. is having some crisis with Saudi Arabia, the killing of the journalist and all that, and sanctions for Iran would also kick in very soon. So we'll see the supply side coming down, and then demand is also waning, but it looks like the supply falls would affect the prices. So you see crude going up slightly before the end of the year. For gold, the story is good. When there's a lot of uncertainty on the market, gold prices go up, and stock markets, yes, across the globe are not performing. So it looks like everybody's shifting to gold currently.
I need you to repeat that. Repeat that again.
Yes, what I'm saying is when there's a lot of uncertainty on the market, investors shift to gold. Okay. Currently, we are seeing stock market not performing well across the globe, and it looks like investors are shifting to gold currently. For cocoa, the story is a bit better, because demand is going up, so the price of cocoa is picking up. And our farmers are the ultimate beneficiaries at the end of the day.
There appears to be a bit of a bit of excitement with regards to the cedi and how it appears to be stabilizing against the dollar.
Yes, I think the cedi has seen a lot of falls from the beginning of the year. Currently, it's lost about 7.85% of its value, but that is beginning to stabilize because we've had some inflows coming in, and we expect that from now to the end of the year, it wouldn't stray so much from the current levels now.
Winslow, we've got to end here. Thank you very much for your time. Winslow Sakifio is Head of Capital Market for First Bank Financial Services. Let's take our financial literacy tip for tonight, and it has to do virtually with Ponzi schemes.
Here are some tips to avoid falling victim to a Ponzi scheme. Be skeptical.
We're unable to play you that insert. Apologies sincerely for that hiccup in our transmission. Well, that's how we end the Business Focus for tonight. Thanks very much for watching. Stand by now for News 360 with Natalie Fort and Issa Money. Goodbye.